So I got a UK film here that takes place in the Moor, which is a damp, dark, desolate place. It's considered to be infertile ground, kind of like a mossy bog of like peat moss and just a ton of like swampy ground that you could step into a spot and sink into and die. And this is a movie that they're doing sort of a supernatural thing with. So let's check it out. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be talking about a movie that's going to be coming eventually here to the United States. It's called The Moor, hitting UK cinemas on the 14th of June, and it's also going to be on digital July 1st. So it will be coming to the US at some point, but there's no release date as of yet. But you might want to keep your eyes out for this. Essentially about a girl and this young boy that she's friends with goes missing. 25 years later into the future, this mysterious missing boy that she left alone for just a couple of minutes, the father of that boy comes to her to try to help track him down and find out what happened. Obviously, they feel that he's been murdered. They want to investigate this haunted moor area that he believes is his son's final resting place. And he's going to some pretty odd extremes to try to find out where his body is. This is a movie that is directed by Chris Cronin. This is his first directorial debut, done a few shorts, and it is also by writer Paul Thomas, who this is their first debut as a feature film. So both of these, director and writer, are working on a feature film together. So what did I think? Well, I actually kind of like this one, and it also kind of drags in some areas that I felt like they could have sped up. My issue with this film is this one's going to be really hard for the general audience to really grab onto and stick around to the good part at the very end. Now, the end wasn't perfect by any means, but it definitely carries an atmosphere in this movie all the way up to the really good stuff. The best part of the movie, in my opinion, is at the very end. The story that we're dealing with here in the lost child or children, because this has happened many times before through this investigation that they do on the side. They don't want to reach out to the regular media or the police because they feel like those people let them down. So they're out to investigate this on their own. Obviously, a lot of the clues for this particular case have dried up years ago, but they're out there nonetheless. And his father asks for some help from some sort of spiritualist type people. And that's how they go about trying to figure out and solve the mystery of these missing children and his son. This movie does, like I said, carry a lot of atmosphere. The score for this movie is very haunting. There's beautiful landscapes of like the moor, this open land that is just so mysterious to some people. They really do a really good job in this movie of kind of turning that moor into a haunted, scary kind of place, but not until the very end of the movie. Sure, there's some mystery. This is actually marked as a drama horror mystery, and I'd say that's pretty accurate. Although the horror is a little bit lighter, there are elements of it in here, and I really, really wish that this movie would have like kind of leaned on that a little bit more. I understand there's a balance sometimes with these kind of movies that directors and writers do not want to go over because you go into schlocky or silly kind of territory, and then it becomes not a scary movie, but a silly movie. But this one is so slow. It's like a 2-hour movie, and the best part is the last 30 minutes, and that is asking a lot. The acting is strong, the shots are good, the characters are interesting enough, there's a lot of grief going on, a lot of blaming, and there's some interesting characters that you meet along the way to help them solve this sort of mystery. But it takes them forever to really get to the horror aspect of this movie. But when they do, boy, do they really, I mean, there's something there. Like, I've seen other movies that they did in the Moor. They tried to do a supernatural thing, but they leaned a little bit more on the crime aspect of it. It felt ripe with like a fresh sort of folky feel to it, but like it didn't go as far as I really wanted it to. And I know that's not necessarily the movie's fault. I wanted to have more mind-melting, sort of trippy, scary stuff going on in the Moor because it's pitch black and they do this fog thing that's rolling over it. And, you know, they use very minimal lighting. It looked really cool. They also use a couple different forms of media in this film that kind of make it give it a little bit of a documentary flair. She's wearing like a camera on her chest, so when she goes out to the moor, they don't really utilize this in a found footagey kind of way, but it does give it a little bit of a vibe in the film as well. So that was a nice little touch. There's nothing graphic in this movie, nothing extremely dark or anything. It's just kind of going for that atmospheric drama, folk horror kind of feel to it that has this sort of old legend to it. And I feel like they should have gone to the moor and done some of the scary stuff way sooner. And there's some elements in the movie that happen that they go out there for multiple reasons. I get why they did it. I don't know. It's hard to say because I can't spoil this movie for you, but trust me on this. I think for those of us who like get into these sort of slow burn drama horror movies that have like a really good mystery to it, I think you'll have something to appreciate. It has that vibe to it, which is kind of interesting, but I don't think it's going to be for everybody. And the 2-hour tag on the movie is way too long in my opinion, but there's definitely talent behind this camera and behind the words that were written for it. And I really do like the atmosphere that they were kind of presenting. I just feel like the story needed so much more. I started to get a little impatient by the end. So, but to be fair, I still think it's a decent movie and I think it deserves at least a 6.5 or a 7. And that's just on my personal basis. It would have been an 8 or even an 8.5 had they gone further and done a lot more sooner and cut a lot more out. But, you know, this is their first feature film. And, you know, maybe that's just the style of way they want to make those films. And it's just not for me. But if you have the patience, I think it's worth a watch. I think you should check it out when it comes out to rent if you are into that kind of film. Especially if you like modern sort of folk horror about missing kids and stuff like that. It's really kind of got some beautiful stuff in there that's like kind of dark and it just works. But yes, thank you very much Strike Media for sending this out. I look forward to seeing what both Paul and Chris do in the future because I think they were a good team on this one. And I would love to see them do something just a little bit more. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Is the Moor a place that you think is ripe for horror? And would you watch a movie that is taking place in the Moor for a horror movie? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.